love Detroit. Detroit is really all I know. I was born and raised here. I'm a native son. I learned majority of everything I know, good or bad, from Detroit. It's like pressure create diamonds. And so that's how I feel about Detroit, the D. I feel like we're diamonds. You know, we have a lot of pressure here. And it's like either you rise to the occasion or it breaks you.
Detroit has filed for bankruptcy. It is now the largest city in U.S. history to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy.
Motor City ran out of gas.
Things have been building to this moment.
Detroit filing for bankruptcy yesterday, the largest city ever to do so.
78,000 of the properties in Detroit are
trees going through the roofs of dilapidated houses.
40% of the streetlights don't work.
Scores are similar to children who had never attended school.
Does anybody think that they should call the police and not be able to come on time because they're already out on calls? No.
Human rights experts from the United Nations spending time in Detroit today. New crisis.
Bankruptcy.
Chapter 9 filing.
Detroit. What is going on in Detroit?
No one had ever covered anything like this. No one had ever seen anything like this. We knew really early on that this was a national story because no city this size had ever declared bankruptcy.
There's a place called the Empire.
I thought the bankruptcy was a vehicle for returning our gaze to the people as opposed to government and fighting and politics and money, saying, what do the people here actually need? Hard for people who are not here to imagine we had literally hit that bottom that no other major city in America had ever gotten to. You have infrastructure for almost 2.5 million people and 700,000 people using it and paying for it. That can't go on anymore. The city as it's configured now is not sustainable.
All right, y'all, this is Nakia Jernigan. And when did this happen? Was this 2009 or? Yeah, it was 2009, and she was shot. She was shot. And so now she's in this wheelchair, and her family wants to get a van so she can get out of the house.
There is a reality here that is mind-blowing. We are one of the most dangerous zip codes in the United States. Well, the biggest thing with the kids is murder is a reality to them. Drug addiction is a reality. Poverty is a reality. And they don't even believe that they're going to live to the age of 30. What would you do if you honestly and truly believed there was no future for you or there was no hope? What would you do?
And we're gonna raise that $4,500 for this young lady, because we love her and she is one of us. So then therefore all this crazy gun violence that's happening, this affects people.
A lot of these kids, they come in the door and they have all the issues that's out in the community. Once they start coming here, things begin to change. You do get a little bit more hope. So we may have to take care of a few things when we're talking to these young people. And sometimes you may find out there may not be any lights in the house, there may not be any food in the house, they may not have clean clothes. Some of these kids, when they get out of school, we just outright have to feed them. Some of the kids, we have to send them home with groceries. So we're providing opportunity that people in this community would not ordinarily have.
And what a lot of times the perpetrator of these crimes don't understand, when this happens to Nakia, it happens to Marcella. It happens to Ebony. It happens to her entire family, and it happens to the rest of us. Violence happens to everybody. That's why we all play a role in its eradication. We have got to stop this. So God bless you, Nakia. We gonna wash some cars out there, and we gonna make some money. And for those who ain't got no car like me, we just go write a check or give you some money. We gonna raise that money before this summer is over. So God is good. God is good.
That's very like a black Santa Claus. He a lucky charm.
Kids don't grow up saying, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be a murderer and I want to go to jail for the rest of my life. When I grow up, I want to be a convicted felon. But the circumstances of where they live, they in it by default. People who know it's not right have got to stand up.
This neighborhood was given up on a long time ago. And for us, like coming in here and just inviting the street artists in to do the murals, it's gotten people's attention. A lot of like the street art and the graffiti culture, they do stuff like this their entire life. The average person doesn't understand stuff like this. The general public understands stuff like that.
I want something that speaks to more people, and I think that's kind of the call of graffiti in general, is you're trying to reach as many people as possible, doing whatever it is you give a shit about. I've learned that things that make people laugh or smile are much more effective, so I just thought it was a really cool and goofy face that'll make people smile while you're driving by.
Bring in all the street art, it's deterred crime and decreased crime. When I first came here in 2010, there were 2 drug houses behind this building, and when you get school buses of people coming out here and taking pictures and community interaction, drug dealers and criminals, they don't want to hang around in a neighborhood where people are taking pictures. Detroit is a very crazy city. To be honest with you, it's insane. There's been many times that I've been at my breaking point, but then decide to stay here and tough it out and keep moving forward. I think that's how a majority of the people are here.
Unfortunately, because we declined so much, so many people were willing to write off Detroit and say it's over, you know, the end of history, you know, full stop.
If you look at downtown, if you look at Midtown, there's no question that the trajectory there is far more positive than it was even 5 or 10 years ago. People from all over the world are now really interested in coming and starting something in downtown or midtown Detroit. We have 20,000 new employees downtown. There's all kinds of housing that's opening up downtown.
We see new buildings going up, and young people moving in, and coffee shops and restaurants opening all the time.
I think that is exciting. Now, I think there's, you know, of course, a dark underbelly to that, which is, well, if this is happening here, what's happening in the neighborhoods?
Clearly saying that because we have a nice riverfront and a nice downtown, that's not sufficient for the city. We need to work on a whole bunch of other stuff. Downtown's not going to do it by itself.
I mean, there are a lot of jobs in downtown Detroit that are available, but they're available to people who have had opportunity already, people who have skills that match up with that job. So many people in the city don't fall into that category. If you don't sort of harness the excitement of the attention downtown to sort of spend that capital, the capital that excitement generates in those neighborhoods, then you're not really changing the city for most of the people who live here.
I would never say that we've got any kind of victory. All we've got is hard work. We've been able to deliver on some of the things we've worked on, but there's a lot more down the road, and we got a lot more to do. In any other city, you don't think about a lot of the stuff. You don't think about lights. You don't think about whether ambulance shows up. You don't think about whether trash gets picked up. It just happens. In Detroit, we're getting to that.
Just the isolation that people in the city feel almost makes them like people who live in rural communities. That's very similar to places like in Appalachia where the geography separates poor people from wealth. Here it is the fact that everybody else just left. We have 70,000 abandoned houses in the city of Detroit. Add to that another 25,000 lots that are vacant.
And what you're left with in Detroit are these little pockets or islands. And all the way around that island, you're kind of surrounded by the sea of blight and crime.
And if you're on an island, the person that you're most connected to because their fate is the same as yours is the other person on the island. In a lot of these communities, what you're seeing is those are the only people left. Those are the only organizations left. And if they don't rely on each other, if they don't help each other, they know they won't survive.
I mean, it is what it is. We're here right now. We see what it's become. But, you know, how I see it and how I've always seen it was just, it's still a home. And it's still a part of, you know, my home, you know? I actually scratched my name somewhere around here. I remember all the things with the kids in the neighborhood, and like this is really what defined my character today.
It's really bizarre. It's absolutely surreal to see where you were playing and all your friends from the neighborhood, and now looks like this. And
It was surreal to see that space and the condition that it's in. I still see ghosts of like my home still there, you know? And so you still get that warm feeling in the space itself. Upstairs, that was the first wall I ever vandalized. I had a bunch of crayons. I was maybe 3 years old, and I just kept writing on the walls. And my mom, you know, stopped me. it looks like people just up and left, and that's exactly what happened, you know? So no, I'm not gonna say the people destroy this neighborhood. No, the neighborhood's actually fine. It's just there's no one here left to take care of it. And that's survival. No matter where you are in the world, it'll be like that when people just up and leave.
For me, when I see blight, I see opportunity. We call ourselves guerrilla growers, guerrilla gardeners. You may not own the land. They can consider it to be illegal, you know? But actually, we're not doing anything illegal. We're actually just trying to, you know, benefit our community, stop an eyesore.
They talk about Detroit being a food desert because our access to food has been limited to gas stations, liquor stores, and convenience stores. But in actuality, we have all this open land.
And so we had to change our perspective. Detroit has over 1,500 gardens. And so when people think like that, you go, what? Well, there's food here. Of course there's food here. The goal is, how do we connect that with the people?
It's not like a community like these people in these set amount of blocks and this is my community. More so, it's the community of shared values. You know, we attract each other. There's power in unity, and you will see how much can be done when we work together.
The big intellectual change we made is to see vacant land as an opportunity rather than as a drawback. For a long time, it was viewed as just waste space. You know, every year the county would auction off the tax foreclosed parcels, thousands of vacant lots in the city that nobody wanted, and you thought this is just, there's no point to this land. And now we're starting to think, well, actually land is quite valuable. Farming is not just a way to grow a few tomatoes, but suppose you could be self-sustaining in your food supply in Detroit. Right now, Detroit, like every other city, gets most of its food from Mexico and California and lots of other places. Well, suppose we could grow most of it here, or at least some more of it here.
When we talk about green infrastructure and green living, it's not just this hippie thing or this cool hipster thing. That really is about feeling connected to the space in which we live. It's a matter of finding ways to work together to not only grow food, but to change the landscape of our city.
We're going to make this city a viable, going, great city.
By the late 60s and certainly by the early 70s, we were already trying to do projects to reverse the decline. Big highways and the stadiums and the people mover casinos, the most famous being the Renaissance Center. And that was meant to sort of be the Renaissance of Detroit.
I was 6 years old. I can remember seeing the cranes building the towers, and I mean, it was fascinating. After the riots and after all the people had left, this was the rallying point for the city's comeback.
Of course, it failed completely. And it created this famous fortress on the waterfront where people drove their cars in from the suburbs, parked in the parking garage, walked through covered walkways to their office, and then drove out at night and never saw Detroit at all.
There was no way it was going to accomplish what they thought it was. I was 6 years old. You know, I'm 44 now, and we're still talking about what thing will turn the city in that direction.
I think politicians love to cut ribbons. They love to see cranes on the skyline and all that.
And there's never even a look back at, well, we tried all these other things and they didn't do it. It's this false promise that gets dangled in front of everybody every couple of years as, well, here's the thing that's going to do it this time.
And they're just based on the notion that one big, centrally planned showcase effort is going to save the city, and that does not work. That's abundantly clear by this stuff. The reason they don't work is they don't really do much of anything for the cities. They suck up a huge amount of resources that could have been used otherwise. The question is who pays for it and who reaps the benefit.
Blight is in the eye of the beholder. Art is in the eye of the beholder. And a lot of people say that the murals and the different type of public art that we're making is blight. But you know what I think is blight, coming from a real estate background? Driving by a crappy abandoned building and seeing a crappy paint job on it that has all these different nasty shades of gray, that it's obvious that it's been vandalized and it's not being taken care of right. And painting murals on those buildings, and then in turn having them respected by other artists and other graffiti artists, where they're not defaced and they stay up for a long time, is part of our solution. So the Screw and Bolt shop, they were getting $300-400 tickets every couple months from the city for having graffiti on their building. So I said, you know what, I've never met these guys. I'm gonna go in there and introduce myself. And I walked in and said, hey, my name's Derek, and I think it'd be cool to graffiti your building. And they looked at me like I was crazy. So the graffiti artists, you know, some of them that I've met, like, have destroyed half of the city, putting up their name and tagging and just being destructive. And really, they just want the opportunity to express themselves, and they want to create attraction to their artwork. What we've been able to do is to channel it in a different way, and the same guys that do the tagging are capable of making beautiful artwork.
If you want to be known in the art world, I feel like you have to first be known by earning it on the streets, forcibly, like making people aware of your presence.
A lot of people think that graffiti, people that do graffiti are the ones going in and scrapping and setting buildings on fire and selling drugs, and they're the drug dealers and in the gangs.
What Derek is doing is cool because it shows the public that these people that are making you feel unsafe by like spray painting their names and vandalizing everything can also create something that you're gonna like.
A lot of people out in the suburbs of Detroit, they think I'm nuts. Like, why are you investing your money in real estate into this neighborhood? Why are you spending all this time with the graffiti and street artists? A lot of them do illegal vandalism. I can't tell you how many times that I've had an artist painting a 2-story mural on a cherry picker man lift, and the police have pulled up and said, what are you doing? It's like, what do you think we're doing? And we have a $50,000 piece of equipment that working on a 2-story building. Come on, come on.
There's this idea that graffiti and mural work, if you're doing murals, you've made it. You're a professional artist, you know, but if you're doing graffiti, you're some scumbag piece of shit. And like, that's not real. There's so many ways that artists have been criminalized in this city. Just from my personal experience, I was hired to do this mural in an alley, and I painted the wall. I was about 75% done, and then a security guard from the building behind it walked around. And I said, oh, it's okay, I have a permit. And there's this all of a sudden a fear that seemed to come from him when I grabbed my backpack and reached into it. And I noticed while I was doing this, he was reaching for his gun. He's in a life or death situation in his mind. I'm trying to get a piece of paper to show him I was hired to do this. Look at the situation I've been put in for doing something I had permission to do that's only trying to beautify the city. I mean, we write on stuff without permission sometimes. That is a crime by law. But that doesn't mean that I'm trying to kill this guy. Like, that's absurd.
If I tried to do this project in the city of Atlanta or New York, I would have to get approval through city council and mural permits and all these obstacles along the way. And that's part of why I can relate to the street art culture so well. You know, they go up putting up their beautiful murals and artwork illegally. That's that whole attitude of the city of Detroit. We're just gonna jump in, get it done. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. People are seeing opportunities and not letting anyone get in their way, and they're accomplishing things.
You talking to me?
See you later.
But you can't go to work.
Yeah, the greatest feeling in the world is when you feel like that you're not alone. Because I think that's what gives everybody else hope. For all intents and purposes, Terry is the other pastor of this church. He was not here, this job would be a whole lot harder because you have to look at the fact that the church is 60% black male. The younger black males, he takes the brunt of that, and I just help support that. So this would be not as successful if he was not here. He is a major component to that, major.
Pastor Barry, he doesn't care where you come from. We always say and play with that, he's the ghetto pastor and he bring in Ray Ray and Pookie. Yeah, somebody got to do it. You got to bring in Ray Ray and Pookie, and those are the ones that causing havoc in the inner city. So if we do not take a hold of them, who will? We always open to you come and play basketball because that's where I get to know what you about, who you are. I love myself.
I love myself.
That's whack. I love myself.
I love myself.
Do you?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
All right, let's mean it. Mean it, mean it, mean it. I love myself.
I love myself.
I love myself.
I love myself.
Gabe.
I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody. I am somebody.
Everybody needs someone to talk to. Everybody have a lot of stress inside. When something happened in their lives, if it's a person, if a family member dies, a friend dies, they come to me and I sort of help them, but I want them to start relying on each other, to comfort each other and help them through the situations. They're always gonna need help. I don't care how old they get. Let's open it up. Group discussion.
Like, where we from, our moms do so much, it's hard for them to focus on what we actually doing. So it's hard for them to actually parent and see stuff and stop stuff at the head, to be on top of it. So it leads to just having a whole lot of free time to be chaotic and a lot of stuff to go on.
We've been to so many funerals, it's just, we see it every single day. It's just not, I'm hearing it from talk, I see it. They end up in drugs, end up in jail. A couple of them end up dead, getting shot actually in this neighborhood. I've been there, done that. I've been in this business working with young people for so many years. I lost a lot, I saved a lot.
I think it's hard, like, being young to believe in God if you struggle. Like, that's what, like, I really think, like, it's hard to have faith in something and then, like, you home, your lights off, you ain't got clothes. Like, it's like a reality.
It gets back to that choice that they make. So we could be there for them, but it's, again, their choices.
Let's say, like, even in our city, people die every day, right? At what point do we say, okay, he been wrong and this guy wrong, we gonna get this right? Don't nobody say that.
And sometimes it's just no other way out. So at the end, you gotta protect yourself over, you know what I'm saying, everything.
It's like, we gonna just keep doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? Versus getting to the next step for real, for real.
All right, let's pray. We're gonna do the Dominique, the Lord's Prayer. We have to keep pounding the positive in them, just being there for them at all times. Because we know there's nothing out here for them, but they're for jail. It's a choice. It's a choice they have in life. But we want them to always make the right choices. That's why we got to be behind them, just in case they fall.
God's power, King, glory, forever.
Damo. Mike, take off. I'm here.
Our kids don't believe in the future. They don't believe a lot of times in hope. You have to prove it to them. You have to show it to them. Because the reality is, most of these kids don't believe they're gonna live to be 30. These are people who have been hurt, they've been disappointed, they're disenfranchised, and to bring them back to that exuberance of what you would see mostly in kids, that's going to take some work. I look at it this way. The church is the people, not the building. But it also stands as a symbol of hope. The people that we're serving, we're just as poor as they are. I kept thinking, the bills were coming in, and I'm like, we can't afford this. And I just thought, even if I brought in $1,000 a month, just wasn't happening, wasn't coming. All I can think about is, I will not be the last priest of this church, and it stood here for 100 years. I'm not putting a lock on the door. That is not gonna be my legacy. And I remember praying and praying and praying. I'm like, Lord, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Only thing I know to do is to go back to work.
Is this stuffing?
Compost, which I specialize in, is the work of transformation. And so we get what people consider as waste.
This stuff that we are creating is going to be here long after we're gone and be able to benefit future generations. So in the sense, I look at it as if this is how I leave my mark for the future. I am struggling. I'm not, I don't make a lot of money, but I see not to compare, but I see people in worse conditions. For some people, it's about survival. We can't do it individually, so we come to collectively put our money and our resources together, then we have a chance. We grow relationships, and it's not necessary, it's not easy. One of the greatest challenges in life is human dynamics.
Okay, let's see. So we're moving on to L9.
L9,
Very good.
which is a more detailed sketch of the 900 lot, the list of materials, and where the materials are going.
We have people who are actually working together, communities who are deciding, we're tired of our neighborhoods looking like this. And so what else can we do? We have these empty lots, let's grow food on them. So we directly work with them. It's not you living right next door to each other and you don't even speak. You're growing food together, you're gonna talk, you're gonna have conversation.
Yeah, this is a big issue for me. It seems like this is a huge project for anyone. You know, normally a facility like this would be taken care of by an institution like a city park system or a county park. So, I mean, is this practical?
This is something that we're doing to stay alive as human beings. We're fighting for our lives. So we do things that may not subjectively be, would you say, practical? But we turn it to something that becomes practical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly my concern. You know, and I haven't heard or seen that in writing, and I haven't heard it.
I know you want everything on the table so you know all the ins and outs, but with hard work, determination, and folks trying to come together to make it work and understanding the need and the necessity for it, it'll grow and take care of itself.
I mean, I don't mean anything negative by this. What I was trying to say is that maybe that number is 40 hours per week, maybe it's 140, maybe it's 1,000 hours. What if it turns out that it's too much?
This plan is a concrete step in moving forward. And so I'm asking that we find a way to work with this plan, and if you don't like it, find ways in which you can be a part of the solution instead of just the critique.
Graffiti artist turns himself into Detroit police less than 2 months after unveiling a giant downtown mural. But when he wasn't working on that massive masterpiece, the city says Shepard Fairey was tagging buildings all over town.
Police say he illegally tagged multiple city buildings with his signature artwork, something they're calling vandalism.
Well, police tell us if he is responsible for that illegal street art, he'll be treated like any other graffiti artist.
How in the world did he go up there? Or does he just have a pole that's long enough? Oh, wow. The most famous artist that we've had participate in the Grand River Creative Corridor. As far as the Shepard Fairey situation, for me, is a property owner in the city of Detroit. Property taxes are being used to go and pursue an artist that put up posters in the city. They have a whole special police unit that has spent probably hundreds of hours on this. And in the meantime, little old Derek is sitting over on Grand River without street lights, with weeds growing through the sidewalk. Last week, I had a property where the water meter broke, and I had water gushing out of my building. I called the City of Detroit Emergency Water Department hotline, and they said, yeah, well, we hope to get to it. 12 hours later, there's still water gushing out of my building. They're shutting people's water off that they're delinquent by $50. And the city, during that 12-hour period, lost probably $10,000 worth of water. Half of Grand River was flooded. While that's happening to me, they're off pursuing a well-known street artist for putting up 20 posters. The resources in the city of Detroit are so limited to indict someone over that. Let's prioritize, guys. It's things like that that make the thoughts run through my head that say, why am I even doing this?
Side is a unique church. It is a place where drug dealers, criminals, and the poor find hope.
But despite that work, the church is broke, and the pastor is hoping for some divine intervention to keep the lights on and the doors open. And so right now they're looking at which programs they can cut, you know, and the staff here, they don't get paid. They're all volunteers so that every dollar goes back into helping the people in this community. The pastor even recently took a job so he can help pay down that light bill, which is around $4,000.
Most people think my job is the church. The church don't have the funding to pay me. It's not like that.
Okay, I'm waiting on my new favorite customer wherever she went. There's a turkey, salmon. You know, she also coming back to get some salads too. So by the time the day over, maybe she'd take everything from out of here. This would be really kind of cool.
You want a dinner or you just want
Dinner.
Dinner. So how's everything going?
It's going well, going well.
And then when the congregation found out that that's what I was, I didn't tell them nothing. They just saw me in the store. It was like, Pastor Barry, what are you doing here? It came down to graduations. I couldn't go. I had to go to work. And that bothered me. That bothered me. You spend your time, you help the kids, you help get them to where it is they want to go, and it's their shining moment, and then you stop and you say, and you know that you played a part in helping them to get there, and then it's like, I can't go. I gotta go to work. They're not just a parishioner. They're not just a kid in the neighborhood. They're not number 298 out of 300. This is a person that you help to nurture, that you've become all part of their family. Sometimes you are the father. You do become the parent. And it's just as bad to them as if their parent didn't come. In a position like this, it's not a job in the way that you think 9 to 5 where you get to compartmentalize. You can't compartmentalize this. We have a funeral for a young man who was murdered. And, you know, I just dealt with a grieving mother who can barely hold it together. And I'm trying to give her hope. And sometimes you're doing that and you're watching a clock. And you think, I got one more hour. And this lady is gonna need more than an hour. So what do I do? Because I gotta go to work.
Looking at where Detroit might go the next 50 years, some people envision you'll have a new landscape where we're sort of a combination of very dense, heavily populated districts, but also a lot of green space, all within the city. And we're sort of getting there informally already. And, you know, we don't know the answer, but obviously one answer is that you've got to have a neighborhood policy.
I believe that the future of this city is to be strong, vibrant, and dense. I don't say whether it should be 140 miles. I don't think you annex any parts of the city. What you'd previously seen had been, you know, mandates of, you know, we're gonna close this part of the city and that part of the city. That's not our goal. You know, we believe that people should have choices and people should choose where they live. They'll naturally make their own choices.
I do think that what's happening downtown and Midtown are singularly exciting and absolutely unique. But it is still about a moment, and it is not addressing that long term, and until you deal with those things, these moments will come and go, and what will remain is the sort of misery almost that everybody else has to deal with.
In downtown, no doubt, way better. But the neighborhoods are going to be what determine whether Detroit, you know, sinks or swims.
What a lot of people don't understand is there's two Detroits. You got people who are making it happen downtown, they're bringing people from all over the country, and then you got those who are disenfranchised. And so then our job is we'll take the disenfranchised.
Car wash! Car wash! Car wash! It's car wash!
You have nothing against what's going on. I think all of that is wonderful. But at the same time, somebody got to pay attention to these people who don't have. Because my thing is, if you over there and you kind of behind the gated community, this, that, and the other, well, the people who don't have just go climb the fence and go over to where you are, and then we got a disaster.
If a person doesn't have what they need to survive, what do you think they're gonna do? If a person is on welfare and you cut welfare from that person and you haven't gave them the necessary skills to go out here and get a job that pays a living wage or anything, what do you think they're gonna do?
If Detroit is going to move forward, if it's going to move forward, you cannot leave people behind. I'm talking about people who want to get out of the bottom and don't know how. I'm talking about people who would pull themselves up by the bootstraps if they had boots. I'm talking about people who actually need an opportunity and resources.
The stuff that's happening in downtown, in Midtown, I've talked to people in the neighborhoods of Detroit, and I'm like, hey, have you checked out that cool coffee shop in Midtown or that new restaurant that just popped up? And the responses I've gotten are, oh, we don't feel right going there, or I don't feel welcome there, or that's not my thing. And you know what they mean. What they're failing to do is figure out a way to engage people that have been in the city for 50 or 60 years. Not just only be limited to painting murals on buildings. It has to be something more than that, creating an identity for the neighborhood and bringing people to not only visit, but to stay and have an invested interest in the neighborhood. I come into a building and have a vision to see the building thriving, and in a sense, that's what an artist does. One of the buildings that I own, we started renovating it, basically gutted it down to the studs and rebuilt it. What we're doing here is building a community from the ground up, and it's a bootstrap effort. The addiction is that transformation of taking something that's nothing and turning it into something. You know, for me, I get like an adrenaline rush out of it. I feel like we really haven't executed to a great extent of what our plan is. But I think that in business, the number crunchers and the people that are sitting behind the desk coming up with great plans, that's all they'll ever be. And the people in Detroit that are actually doing something are the people that are like, you know what, I know where I am now and I know where I want to see it go. I'm gonna just get it off the ground. It's exhausting though. It's always a struggle, like, in this city. Nothing's easy.
Okay.
You're gonna be late today.
I know. I'll be okay. All right, Sammy, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Okay, here we go. Gotta hit the ground running, get this going. I already did human food, now we're about to do soul food.
When I had to make the decision to take a job, that was one of the toughest decisions I had to make. We've already lost part of who we are. Anytime now I have to go work a job, we've lost. And that's the part that's tragic. For real, for real, for real.
So let me say this first. How many of y'all appreciate what goes on here? How many of y'all really appreciate the work that Terry does? Okay, I don't know if y'all know this. Y'all been hearing me say in church almost every week, we ain't no money. Y'all hear me say that? And part of the thing is, if we don't come up with money, we ain't gonna be able to do this program. It ain't gonna be no basketball.
And if we go help these kids, and all I can think about is them being cynical in terms of, yeah, this may close. We're used to things not working. They're used to that. I didn't want that to become true for them, because then the church too, just like everything else in their lives, would have ended and kind of abandoned them.
The reason we do what we do is to provide y'all with opportunity. And the thing about it is, most of you all, we really proud of. We don't want to shut anything down, but what we would have to start with is Tuesdays and Thursdays. Because the thing about it is, if we don't do something different, that's the reality of it.
And after looking at them and basically getting no emotion, because I think a lot of times they feel like they have to become numb to prospects, and they try not to get their hopes up too high because they've been disappointed, especially after you create a connection. And we became family, so we gonna lose another part of our family again. Yeah, we kind of used to being disappointed.
So the reason why I want to be able to share that with you all, because I don't want you to be blindsided by it. Now, I'm believing in all faith that it's gonna come, that it's gonna happen, because I don't believe God is gonna let us down either. But a lot of times, y'all know we co-creators, we have to do some stuff too. Something's gotta give. Y'all keep praying and believing. Hopefully we won't have to stop anything.
And I'm like, Lord, I know you did not bring us this far for this still to happen. This would be one giant crude joke. And I don't want to be a part of that.
I just remember driving down Grand River and I see all these yellow, like, Post-it looking things all over the buildings. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I pulled over, ran up to one of the buildings and took the piece of paper off and saw like 5 tickets attached to it for failure to remove, defacement of property, having graffiti on the building, basically 5 different versions of the same ticket. And I started adding them all up, and it's like, this is $8,000. What in the world is going on?
Crackdown on graffiti in Detroit is apparently going just a little too far tonight.
Inspectors have warned business owners they'll be ticketed for building murals that are part of the urban landscape.
He said that they were instructed to go down the main roads, and any building that had graffiti or artwork on it to be ticketed.
You know, it's been my baby. It's been my pride and joy. And for one city inspector to come in and decide that it had zero value and was deteriorating the neighborhood and needed to be removed. What happens if I come back the following morning and the city takes it upon themselves to come and paint over everything. You know, it takes hours and days to create these works of art, but it takes literally probably 20 minutes to cover them up.
How are you?
I don't know.
You okay? You okay?
I'm okay.
You okay? You okay? Okay, we're about to get started.
I'm ready.
Okay, so I need you to take your spot before we get started. Everyone is hard, everyone is personal, but what's tragic is when it's a young person whose whole life was ahead of him. And because of gun violence, he lost his life. You know it's a fact of life, but it's one of those things that we deal with all the time. And it would be nice if I were to say that this was a rare occasion, but it's not. Welcome everybody to Hardy's Church, Church of the Messiah. I first met Hardy when he came here to Church of the Messiah. Now, just so y'all know, the church is 60% black male under 30. So the majority of the congregation is Hardy's age. So we got a lot of young black men. And I'm not ashamed to say this really is the church of Ray Ray and Pookie, because we got a lot of Ray Rays and Pookies. We got a lot of people trying to get their act together and trying to figure out this crazy world. And I say this to our young people. The world has lied to you, and you have been duped, especially to our young black males who are under attack, getting shot every day over stuff that make no sense. When you don't know who you are, you make mistakes. I'm telling you, you have value by the mere fact you got up this morning. You got value because you showed up in this world. Why you have each other, let go of any beef, let go of any problem, let go of any stupid. Because the thing is, you find out who people really are at funerals. You find out at funerals. So then therefore, guess what? We're at a funeral. Don't wait till the next one to be able to say, I wish I would have told her I loved her. I wish I would have let it go. Let it go. Let it go, it ain't worth it. Life is more important than material. Life is more important than anger. Life is more important than being white. Life is more important than that. We going around saying Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Our lives matter. Family lives matter. So let's love each other.
You gotta just stay prayed up. You hear what the pastor said, we gotta stay prayed up, and I'm right here.
Honestly, you stop and you think about all young people who have died in this church. You keep thinking, not one more. So now my job is reinforced because I gotta stand up for Hardy. Just like I gotta stand up for Richie, and I gotta stand up for Sean P., and I gotta stand up for all of these funerals that I have had to do. These young people, they can't stand up for themselves. Now they're dead. Now what? Hardy now becomes part of the fuel that drive what I do. That is a young black male whose hopes and dreams are now, they've ended. They've ended. But it don't end in me. And it don't end in his mom. And it don't end in his family. And so then therefore we have to take all of that energy and stand up for our young people. You have to use it for good. Yes, you do become angry. Yeah, you do become sad. Yeah, you do feel like it's insurmountable. But what happens if you don't stand up? And sometimes because you stand up, you will find out a whole bunch of other people will stand up. Sometimes they're just looking for somebody to stand.
in the hood, from where we come from, success means getting the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? For real. If all the successful people and well-to-do people move out the community, then we're just left with the drug dealers, the pimps. And these are the examples that younger people coming up have. Part of success for me is being an example to show that people in my community that there are other options for us to become things. Because we're dealing with food, but the things that really plague our society is not just about food. We want input on what's going on in our communities. And we're just using food as a platform to start to address those issues. Because food is one of those issues, but economics is one as well. Education is one as well. It's fundamental things that we're all suffering from. And so it only makes sense if we come together to address these things collectively, because we really don't have any leverage or power individually, but if we address them collectively, then we do.
It's more than just growing food, it's being connected to each other. We exist. If you hear the politicians, they only talk about middle class, but we exist too. Everybody in this city matters. If you have $1 million or if you have 50 cents in your pocket, this is still all of our city. We work with the city. They're not our enemy. However, we still have to be represented.
It's a saying, it's like either you have a place at the table or you on the menu. And from the track record, we've been the people that's on the menu.
Ready? Yeah. Come on, suck it up. Go, go, go.
A lot of the other coaches put these kids down and say they will never be nothing, they not good enough. They got that in their mind that they'll never be nothing.
You're almost home. You're almost
These guys
home.
been let down a lot. These guys been disappointed. They see things out in society that's not going good for them. They see the violence, they see lack of education. And that takes a toll on you as a young person growing up in the inner city and don't have an outlet to release that.
Push, 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 push. Good job.
Okay, how did it go with Josh today?
He didn't know what he exactly wanted to do in life. He didn't know his goals. He did 1 year in college and just was sort of, he wanted to play basketball, that's his passion, but we always tell him,
you better
fall back on something. You have to fall back.
You got
if you
a
get
better
hurt,
chance
yeah,
of getting struck by
hurt,
lightning.
Are you gonna go back to school? Because I know you've been there a year.
Yeah, not this semester. No, not this semester.
So you're just gonna take a break?
Yeah, I might do part-time, but not full-time.
Don't take a break too long.
I'm not.
Because you know, you take one too long, you ain't gonna never go back to school.
No, I don't like being at home this long anyway.
Okay.
The reason I went to Jackson was to play basketball. I'm like, really, that's the only thing that's really been keeping me to go to school is basketball. But I don't know. That's a lot I gotta do.
I don't think he made the team, and that's what
okay.
He's down on, and I always tell him, don't give up. You got to keep going. If you don't make the team, make it next year. Just work hard in the summer for next year. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm always proud of you. You wanna, like we talked about, you on my #1 list of good and great people. Yeah, but I don't know. But I hope you never get locked up.
No, I won't get locked up. Basketball kept me out of trouble for a long time.
Yeah, it
for
kept
a long
me out
time.
of trouble.
And girls, well, they got me into a lot of trouble. Girls got me into a lot of trouble. With basketball, that's why they never did me wrong, ever.
I think about hope and hopelessness a lot. Because there's so many young males who's hurting in the city of Detroit. It's not that they don't want better in life, they don't know how to go after it.
way in the water, way in the water, children, way in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's there yonder dressed in red? Way in the water. Must be the children that Moses led. And God's gonna trouble the water. Way in the water. Way in the water, children, way in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's there yonder dressed in white? Wade in the water. It must be the children of the Israelites. God's gonna trouble the water. Way in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's there yonder dressed in blue? Wade in the water. Must be the children that's coming through. God's gonna trouble the water. Way in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh yes, God's gonna trouble the water. Oh yes, God's gonna trouble the water.
So you can't sugarcoat where Detroit is. Detroit has not saved itself or recovered itself by any stretch. We still have enormous challenges that we have to overcome.
Detroit will never come close to 2 million people again, certainly in my lifetime.
And it's clear that whatever we do, we're not going to be the 1950s again.
If it took us, 60 years to get to this point, we're not going to be anywhere close to where we were in 10.
There is so much work still to do, rebuilding this city and rebuilding neighborhoods. It will be a slow march. It is not something that's going to turn around next year or in 5 or in 10 years. We have always understood in Detroit that nobody is coming for us. People here get that we probably are going to have to make our own way.
Let me see that. Sorry, bro, I just made it. You just missed. Sorry, bro, he gonna bang.
Nah, that's that broke jumper. That's that broke jumper.
These kids gave me hope. They gave me real hope. The money is not there, but I don't worry about the money. I worry about saving lives. And I don't dwell on the ones who I didn't save, because again, that was their choice. I was there for them, I could talk to them, but I left them with something that I was hoping they could take and keep going the right way. So it's a little overwhelming and stressful.
I'll tell you, a lot of times, I just wanted to say, forget it, I'm done. And Pastor Barry,
he always there telling me, don't give up, don't give up. You ain't going nowhere else, this ain't you. And that keeps me going. I know he be wore out because he got a job at Harbor Town. Who does that? Who is a pastor of a church to take another job? So all that keeps me motivated, keeps me going. Even though I'm broke, I look at that as uplifting.
I believe that you do have to sacrifice. I do believe that true ministry is gonna cost you something. To do it for real, it's gonna cost you something. But what's hard is when you deal with the reality is, I do have to work to continue to serve. I was able to cut down on my hours. I'm still there, but I'm not there as much. It's still hard to do because when I go, I'm missing something. I don't feel like the church is my job. I feel like it's my purpose. You really don't quit purpose. This is who I am. This is where I belong. This is where I find value. And oddly enough, we're not out of the woods. We're always teetering on that edge. But I think that's what keeps us fresh. And that is a little bit of our reality of hope and hopelessness. But we got to keep doing what we're doing and bring about that hope.
I felt like I let everybody down in the Grand River Creative Corridor. All their time and energy and their passion would have been just destroyed, you know, all in one swoop. You know, it was kind of like a wake-up call. Throughout the Grand River Creative Corridor project, we've gotten a lot of local press through the process. So I called up one of the reporters and said, hey, like, this is a situation, what do you think about it? And he's like, I want to write a story. Called him the following morning and said, let's do it.
So something really incredible happened and social media just went into an uproar.
2 hours later, all these different media outlets were contacting me and said, what's going on?
Got a lot of people's attention today. 7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig, though, found out there's been a misunderstanding on what's allowed and what is against the law.
I was outraged. I think it's ridiculous.
I was like, that's absolutely insane.
And by 2 o'clock that day, Mayor Duggan called me on my cell phone. I'm not sure how he got my cell phone number.
I was just over at Brooklyn Street to let them know that that ticket was a mistake.
He said, you know, I'm really sorry that this happened. It's a misunderstanding. He said, don't even worry about the tickets.
Yeah, the tickets were dropped, you know, so it's like this, oh, people really care about it. People really like it, so now it's not a crime. That's, okay, sweet. What the hell happened there? Like,
just that the community realized this had a positive value in this neighborhood. It was kind of a boost of energy that just keeps you moving forward and says, this is why we're doing this.
There is every reason for the city to have folded up and gone away. We had our major industry itself go bankrupt, then the city went bankrupt. Talk about the crime and the lack of services. If any place ever had a reason to just say, you know, that's enough, we can't do this anymore, it's Detroit, and yet we're still here.
There's been a city here for 300 years. So there's going to be a city here 25 years from now, whether we solve these problems or not. So we might as well try to solve them. There will be a Detroit here. There'll be a large population here. Detroit's never again going to be the industrial capital and the auto capital that was in the 50s. We're going to be something different, something new that involves reusing vacant land, reusing vacant buildings, reinventing city government through bankruptcy. And what's fascinating is that we're at the front end of this. It's not like we've solved it. We're just beginning to think about solving it.
In some ways, you could say Detroit is a place for either the brave or the foolish, and maybe a little bit of both. You know, there is that sort of frontierism kind of attitude, I think, among a lot of people here, and that is what keeps communities going. Those organizations define the character of the city, and to stick it out and try to make change in neighborhoods where nobody else is working, where there aren't resources coming in, and where the problems are getting worse.
There's two different types of people in Detroit that are interested in the city's rebirth. You have the rose-colored glasses people, and they see nothing but good for the city. A lot of times they don't see all the negative that's happening and don't have a true perspective of the challenges that, you know, people face in the city. But then you have, you know, a select few in the city that are doers, and a lot of times they see the good and the bad, and they understand the challenges and are willing to work hard for what they believe in. And they're injecting little bits of hope in this neighborhood and in this neighborhood.
Other people from all over the country, all over the world, who say it's just so awful, why did you be there? This is home.
I lived in this neighborhood for 42 years.
This is my roots. This is where my people are at.
I love this neighborhood. I've seen it grow and I've seen it slowly decline. Because I lived in this community so long, I want to see it thrive again.
It's so important for me to be a part of Detroit because this is my home. This is where I connect with.
I love being a servant to my people.
It's a hard job, but this is my home, and this is my community.
I will give back as much as I can.
We've had lots of obstacles, but we've never, ever given up. We've never stopped fighting.
I just look at it as the cowards have left, and the tough people stayed, and they're making it happen.
It can get lonely sometimes, you know, we're short-staffed at the farm, so sometimes I'm out at the farm working by myself. It can become demoralizing sometimes. It can become uninspiring because of the drudgery of the work. But once you're able to tie that into the context of a bigger picture and what it means to other people, it becomes inspiring and motivating. Also seeing the vision and the imagination and sight where we want to go and to push towards that also keeps me motivated. No matter how hard the work, this is an opportunity. And what type of person would I be to let that opportunity slip through my fingers or squander it away? You know, what have we been doing with our time if we don't have hope, and we might as well just let the work go and just, you know, just admit defeat. And that's really not an option, you know? Because what's gonna happen for the people that come after us, you know? It's not just for me. It's recognizing that, you know, I have a daughter. I want the world to be better for her. I want to set a type of example of what type of person we need out here in the world.